Hey everyone, welcome to Superior Wellbeing, a show that covers absolutely everything to do with health and wellness, mental health, financial health, physical health, etc. If it has anything to do with your mind, body, or budget, we're going to cover it. Thanks for tuning in on YouTube, Spreaker, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is episode 2, and I have a great guest on this episode. Travis Holzem, a Desert Storm Marine veteran and single father of 3, brings a unique blend of discipline, creativity, and passion to his work as the owner of Food Forest Design Minnesota. After a successful 25-year career in web design, SEO, and online marketing, Travis traded the digital world for the natural one, dedicating himself to revolutionizing local food production. He now empowers individuals, families, and communities to transform ordinary lawns and underutilized land into thriving, regenerative food forests. These low maintenance ecosystems, built on permaculture principles, provide abundant, chemical free yield year after year, enhancing biodiversity and soil health. Travis is making sustainable home food production a reality for anyone. He's not just designing landscapes, he's cultivating healthier lifestyles and building a more sustainable and equitable future, one food forest at a time. Hey Travis, welcome to Superior Wellbeing. Tell our listeners who you are and what we're going to be discussing in this segment.
My name is Travis Holzem, and I am the owner and founder of Food Forest Design Minnesota. And I am going to be talking about food forests, and which is a regenerative, self-sustainable, low-maintenance, edible landscape or edible ecosystem right in your very backyard.
Now, my notes say you're a Desert Storm Marine vet, so thank you for your service. Even though we're from different countries, I like to think we serve the same war. Uh, Father of 3, 25 years in web design, SEO, and online marketing. What took you down the path of permaculture?
All right, let's go way back to when I was a kid, and everywhere you went back in the 70s, everybody had food growing in their yards or on their properties. And you could go around your neighborhood at any time and go in your neighbor's backyard and pick fruit, apples, pears, plums, blackberries, raspberries, strawberries, everything. That stuff went away, you know. But anyway, I was always amazed at how food grew. It just amazed me. And my mom had a garden in the backyard. She'd always have her tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers, zucchinis, and all stuff like that. And I happened to like cantaloupe and melon
I
when
love
I was a
cantaloupe.
kid. So I'm like, Mom, can I get some seed? Can you get me some seeds for cantaloupe and some melon? And I got pumpkins also. And so I planted that in the backyard garden where my mom had her garden. And a couple of days later, comes this little sprout, you know, and just it just amazed me how this little seed turns into a sprout. And then a couple months later, you have food. And all these different seeds gives you all these different types of food, and it just amazed the hell out of me, And so it was always in my mind that I wanted to eventually grow all my own food. And and then going away, I grew up, went into the Marine Corps after high school, got out, got into the bar business for a while, and when I was 27 years old, I had my first boy, and that allowed me to stay home during the day and work at night. And then in 1998, bought my first computer, and I wanted to be self-made, and so in 1998, that's when Google was born. And so I started designing websites, graphic design, SEO, just designing websites for startup companies and just everything, plus my own websites. And I had an office, and outside the back of my office, I was on the lower level. the office complex looked like a townhouse from the outside, and it had multiple, like if you were to walk in, every bedroom you would say would be an office, and then there was a kitchen. So it looked like a townhouse, a row of townhouses. But
Yeah.
I was on a lower level, and the door in my office went out to a concrete patio, and there's a wooded area out there. And so I had all the wildlife, and nobody bothered me back there. I was the only office down there during the day. So I was growing all my own herbs and vegetables behind my office in pots and in cloth pots. So I had all these herbs and veggies growing, and I'd go outside every morning and grab a bunch of herbs, basil and rosemary, and just eat off of it.
Yeah.
And so I just it always amazed me. I'd start them on my desk in front of my window during the winter because I had this big 8 foot wide window that looked out, and I would throw food out there. The deer would come, turkeys would come and eat every day, and just all this wildlife. And then I planted all this stuff behind the building. And 2015, between 2015 and 2016, a friend of mine was down in Florida, and he had a prototype drawing of a greenhouse. And this greenhouse was not your typical greenhouse. It was more like a greenhouse on steroids. I mean, it was for your average suburban backyard. It had solar panels on the top, so it was like 100% off-grid greenhouse. Had 250-gallon water catchment tanks, two of those. One contained tilapia fish for an aquaponics system on the inside of the greenhouse. The other one was a water catchment with a filter system on it, so you can drink the water, or else you can water all your plants and trees and stuff in your yard
Wow.
with that. And then it had a chicken tractor on the back of it, so you can take that chicken tractor, move it around your yard, and it had this solar powered light bug zapper above the chicken coop on the back of this thing. So the bugs would get zapped, they drop in the chicken coop, right? So and they love bugs, so they always had an endless supply of bugs dropping down in the chicken coop that when it was
That's
attached to the back of the
genius.
greenhouse. Yeah, and then it had a biodigester for making cooking fuel. I don't know if you ever seen those before. It's like looks like a big black rubber balloon, but
Huh.
but all your scraps and waste goes in there. It turns into cooking fuel. And then there was a thermal dehydrator. So there's the thermal. I guess you would say that was on the dehydrator is on the inside, but the thermal part was it looked like a solar panel, but the panel would capture the sun. So the dehydrator is on the inside, so you can dehydrate all your leftover foods. And inside there was a area for starting your seeds. There was a sink. There was just a whole prep area. So
Wow.
it was an amazing system. And as soon as I saw this drawing, it brought me back to when I was growing food as a kid and in my office, and right outside my window. I'm like, I need to be involved in this. How? So
Yeah.
I asked my friend. I knew this is a friend of mine from back in high school. So we met through wrestling through high school. He went to a different high school. And how do I get involved, Jim? And he goes, well, I have a prototype on a farm out here at a pastor's house, and this guy had it on his property and I was going down to Florida for another company I was involved with. So I went down a day early, get my rental car. I went straight to Jim's place, picked him
Yeah.
up, and he took me out to this thing. And amazing. It was just everything I thought it would be, plus more. And it lit the fire in me, and I wanted, so how do we get this to market? Let's get this in every yard across the United States, right? But ran into manufacturing problems because it cost too much to make. It
Yeah.
was such a great greenhouse, but it just cost too much to
Yeah.
make. So when you put all your margins and everything in there to try to make money, it was just too expensive for your average homeowner. So had to kind of figure things out. So over the next couple of years, we tried going at it different ways, different styles, and well, it just wasn't happening. And then COVID comes around. And so he was out of business down in Florida, and I was happened to. I'm never out of business because I'm a web developer. I can do it where I'm at. So
Yeah.
I happen to be running a website for a big decking company up here in Minnesota, and he called me and said, "Hey, I'm done. I'm completely out of business. You know, down here. I go, let's get this. This is we need to start this. Get this company going. We need to do this." And we were, knocking ideas around, and he was walking around his neighborhood in a gated community down in Florida in Orlando, and all the lawns and landscapes, they're really green, and they have trees and stuff, but there's no life in them, and they're all sprayed with your glyphosate and your Roundup, and to keep the weeds from growing, right?
Yeah.
And we're like, every one of these lawns, what if we replace all these ornamental trees with a food producing tree or bush or flower or plant? And, you know, not only would it look much better and it's going to bring back all the life and all the wildlife, it's going to feed people,
Yeah.
and like if we did this everywhere, just think of all the problems this would solve, with the terrible food we have in our grocery stores, the vegetables and fruit is all sprayed with chemicals so it doesn't rot, picked a month ahead of time, and there's no nutritional value left in that food other than that it's making people sick. And then all the processed and ultra processed foods in the store it wasn't around when I was a kid, you
Hmm.
know, and only 20% of the food in your grocery store is real, but it's also sprayed with chemicals.
Yeah.
Or the meat and everything has steroids and antibiotics in it and all that stuff. Nothing's natural. So this we started a company together, transforming lawns into food forest edible landscapes. And so this was new to me because I'm a web developer, but I was hooked on it. I was just kind of that's all I've been doing the last 5 years now, since 2020 is when I started this. And so that brought me to where I am now. So now I'm 5 years into this, and I'm at the point where I'm getting ready to scale this business beyond, in Minnesota here, but beyond Minnesota and
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, no, I looked at your website and your Facebook posts, and we're not talking about just planting some plants. Like you guys are doing full-blown yard makeovers. Tell us a little bit about the benefits of planting a food forest versus just planting a garden or raised beds.
Yeah, that's the confusion some people get. You have a garden is an annual garden. You plant your seeds every spring, depending on where you live. If you live in a warm climate, you can plant, you can get a couple harvests per year because you have the perfect climate for it. But in Minnesota here, when the ground thaws out in late April, early May, depending on what Mother Nature feels like, sometimes we get a cold stretch in May that, shortens our growing season. But so annual garden, you plant in the spring, harvest in the fall. You harvest not only your food, but the seeds to save them for the next spring, and you plant it all over again. Gardens are a lot of work.
Yeah.
A food forest is a perennial food forest. Now, perennial is a tree, plant, bush, flower, native plants, flowers that you plant one time. And it comes back year after year, gets larger year after year, and provides more year after year after year.
Oh, okay.
And so, you plant a tree one time. And then, in Minnesota, they take a nap. Once it starts getting cold out, they drop all their leaves, they go to sleep, and they wake up in the spring again, and they're back doing their thing, go through that cycle all over again. Now, in other areas where it's warm, obviously, you don't have to worry about that problem. So you can have food all year round. Whereas Minnesota here, you are going to harvest and you're going to can all your tomatoes and
Yeah.
vegetables, and you're going to store that for the winter, so it gets you through to the next spring. Um, but when we plant out a perennial food forest, we do put gardens in your yard. That's going to be closest to your back door because that is where a majority of everything you want to eat is you want right outside your back door, the closest to it. It's the
Yeah.
most convenient. That would be zone one, you could call it. But your trees and your bushes and all that, you're planting around the property, and we plant out the food forest is it's called permaculture, okay? And permaculture is a design science that creates a sustainable human environment by mimicking natural ecosystems, natural systems. And we combine agriculture, ecology, and other disciplines to develop that self-sustaining system that comes back year after year, but it also builds soil, brings back wildlife, and it just enhances biodiversity. And but when we plant out your food forest, we're not just putting a tree in the ground. We don't use poisons. We work with nature, not against nature.
Yeah.
And so we plant a food forest has 7 layers. There's some you could say 8, but we say 7. And your layer 1 is your canopy, which is your tall fruit and nut trees that provide. They're the tall ones, and they provide shade for some of your shorter trees, dwarf fruit trees, which is the lower tree level is layer 2. That provides shade for some of those until they get mature and they don't get sunburned, so to speak. They don't get fried.
Right.
Um, so everything is doing its part. A guild is a community of plants. So we take layer 3 is your shrub layer, which is your berry bushes and your, currants. I don't know if you're familiar with what currants are.
Yep.
But you have that layer, and then layer 4 is your herbaceous layer. Um, and then layer 5 is your root vegetables that help break up compacted soil and makes it easier to grow in compact soil, depending on what type of soil you have in your area, because that we take that into consideration too. Layer 6 is your ground covers, which is you plant clover or wild strawberries and stuff. And what that does, not only does it fix nitrogen to your soil, it also protects your soil from the elements. So
Hmm.
your soil is not going to erode, And layer 7 is your vine layer. So your big fruit tree in the center of your guild is going to be your vertical climbers. So your grapes, your passion flowers, and all types of stuff. There's even edible roses that you can plant. I think it's called a rugosa, red rugosa, or something like that. But they're all edible. So that is your 7-layer food forest guild in a nutshell. And so we take uh, all these factors into consideration. I give a list to the homeowner or property owner and say, what do you want to grow in your yard? Everything that grows in your particular zone where you live. You know,
Right.
what is native to your area, what's going to make it in your area, and what doesn't. You can't grow lemons and limes outdoors or oranges in Minnesota because of the weather. The trees will die. I bring them inside. I have them growing, but they're inside right now under grow lights or in a window. Uh, so we get everything they want to grow in their yard, and then we design it like I was saying, like Mother Nature. And so it's low maintenance
Yeah.
versus your garden, which is a lot of work, and you're cutting the grass all the time and weed whacking and all that stuff. That takes a lot of maintenance, a lot of time. And if you fill up your property with food producing plants and trees, you don't have any grass. You have less grass, so you don't have to you hands off as much as possible, and you basically all you have to worry about is pruning your trees up, when they first couple of years to keep them under control and keep them the size you want. Uh, but so that is the difference between gardens, food forest. Kind of a long explanation, but I hope I covered it.
Yeah, no, that's good. What are some of the biggest challenges you've run into getting this going and doing the installations?
Um, the biggest challenge is working capital. And that I'm in the process right now of trying to find an investor so I can scale this business because I have it built up right now where it's like I have this really badass sports car I built, but now
Yeah,
I need gas to make it run. Right?
right.
I need to put fuel in the tank to get it to go, and that's all it needs right now. And I found every piece of the car is built, and it just needs high octane jet fuel to make it blast off. Other than that, and when I started this company, I started with a friend down in Florida, and we did get capital to come in, but little did I know I wasn't going to be part of that after the money came in. I did all the work building the company up and everything like that, and then got cut out at that point. As far as a lot of promises kept or made and not kept. And so basically, I had to start over from scratch again, and build this business. And now and there was nobody to teach me this up here in Minnesota because I've never even heard of a business like this before. I didn't know who to go to, so I basically built it from the ground up. I learned permaculture from other permaculture designers and installers that have been doing this for 30 years,
Yeah,
but they didn't have the business like this. They permaculture is kind of a small group. It's not a commercial business. And
yeah,
and that's what I'm trying to be like any landscaping company out there and grow and spread out there and transform every lawn I can into a food producing space because I think that's going to fix a lot of the problems that we face with our food system and our healthcare system and our crime rates and food insecurity. Um, so I developed an entire business from the ground up, and now it is at the point, I have my 25 years of experience with web development. So I still do all my own web development, my own social media, my own video editing, everything. And now, yeah, so that's been the biggest challenge. Find someone you can actually trust that is going to have the same mission that you do and actually follow through and not let their ego get in the way and think they're above the business. And now I have the right people around me. And it's funny because most of them are all Marines,
wow, that's good. That's good.
you know?
So you mentioned the permaculture group being small, and you're doing this in Minnesota. How can somebody outside of Minnesota get started on learning or doing an install where they are now?
I can design from here. I have designers from every climate. I have a network of designers that I can so I can design anywhere. We can either do it virtually over like we are on Zoom right now with the homeowner or property owner. However, if they are in the same state or in the same area, they could go on site and do it that way. And so anybody anywhere can call me up and or go to my website and we can design their property, and then after that's done, we can have it installed for them. Or else when we design a property, I'm actually giving you a blueprint and instruction manual on how to install this yourself. So it's tailored for the DIYer. So you pay me to design your property, and then I hand it off to you. And here's like step-by-step instructions. I give you an owner's manual for your food forest that explains everything. And then I have a narrative of your design that is going to tell you how to install it step by step if you want to do it yourself. However, hire me to do it, or I'm actually growing install teams all over the country to be able to install everywhere.
All right, that sounds great. I'm going to put a link to all of your locations and social media and everything in the description of this video. Tell listeners where they can find you online real quick.
You can go to find me at foodforestdesignminnesota.com, and that is Minnesota spelt all the way out, just like it is, or the abbreviation mn.com. Both ways go to my website, so you can't get it wrong. You can find me at Food Forest Design Minnesota on YouTube. I have almost 400 videos on YouTube right now, and trying to get that 1,000 subscribers. I'm only 4 away. So by the time this comes out, I'm sure I'll be over 1,000, and it just keeps picking up steam and, getting momentum. And then you can also find me on Facebook at the same Food Forest Abundance Minnesota. And within the next few weeks, I'll be launching the Food Forest Design Network.com, which is what I'm talking about, is having food forest design installers all over the country. And then I already have access to designers everywhere. So in all different climates, and a lot of them have 10, 15, 20, 30 years of experience. So when we do design a property, we're not only just looking at your backyard and say, okay, we'll put this here. We got to, we want to know, do you have water issues in your backyard? When it rains, what happens to the water? Does it pool up in one area? Well, we got to take that in consideration so we can fix that problem and use that water for your system, because water is energy, So we figure out how to fix that problem, but use that water in the entire system. We figure out how much sun your property is getting per day, the rainfall, the soil type. We test the soil, but we do a complete history of your land and figure all that out while we're designing it. And like I said, it's design science. And so we're going to give you the best opportunity that it's as low maintenance as possible for you.
Right.
So,
all right. Well, no, that's great. Great information. Like I said, I'll link to all your socials and stuff down below. And thanks for having this conversation with us and opening our eyes to permaculture and food forest design.
yeah, I just grow foods, not lawns.
That's right. That's right. Excellent. Thanks, Travis. Hope you have a great rest of
Thanks a
your day.
lot. You too. Thanks.
I hope you enjoyed that chat with Travis Holzem. If food forests or permaculture in general is something you might be interested in, check out the links in the description or just Google your local area. That's going to do it for episode number 2 of Superior Wellbeing. Please like, subscribe, follow on all of our socials or wherever you get your podcasts, and join us again on episode number 3. See you next time.